Good morning, shop rats. Today, here in the car, it's Talk About It Tuesday, and we're going to talk about what it's like to deal with annoying neighbors when you're a car guy or gal. Let's watch the show intro. I'll see you in 30 seconds. I'm Mike, and this is My Car's Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
Let me clarify that there are a lot of people who are into cars, but they're not necessarily what I would call a car guy or a car gal. So let's make that distinction to help you understand the context of this particular episode. Lots of people love old cars, like owning old cars, but they don't necessarily go crazy ballistic doing the kinds of work that a lot of us do when it comes to these vehicles. We dig right down in and we fabricate stuff and we tear them apart and we build engines and we build race cars in our house garage and we paint cars in our house garage, and well, we just do everything. And when you live in town, that can be a real problem, and that was the case for me for many years. I'm very fortunate now that where I live is out in the middle of Nowheresville, and my closest neighbor to the north has told me that when they hear a car running, they run to the window to see what one I've got out now. They love it. I am so blessed for that to be the case. Now, I try not to abuse that. I'm not out doing quarter-mile passes up and down the road every single day with some of my really loud cars. I try to be considerate, but it hasn't always been the case that I've tried to be considerate, but it's not always been the case that I've had neighbors who really enjoyed it and who were into it. Years ago, when I was building the Pro Street Dart and building my 31 Ford, that was not the case. And it was always frustrating and a little bit mind-numbing to me that people were not at least mildly interested and did nothing but complain about anything I did when it came to cars. Can you relate? I think we've all had that experience in one way or another. And it's frustrating. I mean, I admit that a lot of my life I'd lived in the country, not all. I did grow up in town, but I grew up in a place where neighbors were very accommodating and understanding and didn't get themselves all bent out of shape about silly things like this. And so when I, after having lived in the country and having carte blanche freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I wanted, at all hours of the day and night, and it never bothered anybody, moving back into town for the 10 years that we lived there was a bit of an adjustment. And I really tried hard to be considerate, but it seemed like no matter what I did, I was always pissing somebody off somewhere, especially neighbors directly across the street. Now, there's lots of reasons, and the therapist, which I used to be one, kicks in and can give me all of the reasons psychologically why jealousy, invading. Well, it doesn't matter. There's lots of reasons why that could be. But at the end of the day, myself and my family had to deal with this. I mean, it was so bad that my son had a go-kart, and if he would be out riding his go-kart, they'd be complaining about that. And we had a vacant lot next door, and we made sure that the go-kart was quiet. It was quieter than a lawnmower. Complain. Now, first of all, some people have nothing better to do than to complain about everything, so that's the way it is. But if you're in that scenario, I want you to know that you're not alone. I was just recently watching an episode of Vice Grip Lodge, which is a sister channel to Vice Grip Garage, which some of you may have heard of. It's just a little teeny small car channel with about 1.2 million subscribers. But Derek and Jessica were talking about one of the reasons, all of the reasons, or some of the reasons why they moved from Minnesota to Tennessee. And while most of those reasons were financial, some of them were just exactly what I'm talking about. Dealing with neighbors who are just angry about everything for you just being who you are. A lot of people think that being a car guy or a car gal is a choice. And I say to a certain degree that's true, but I think it's much, much deeper than that. I think it's written right into the DNA and the fabric of who we are. We love the potential in stuff that we see, and that energy gets focused on cars. Now, if we were in generations past, what might it be? Horse and buggies, back further, it could be trains, it could be, any number of things, but thinking more things along the lines of what's at home. If we didn't have cars, if we weren't in this time and era when we have cars, I'm quite sure that we would still be people who were fixing up old junk at our homes, whether it's old farm equipment or old stuff from around the house, old radios, appliances. I don't know. It could be any number of things. I can't think back in history, but it's in the DNA of who we are. As we look at some rusted out old piece of crap, and we immediately see what it could be, and we want to make it that. We want to restore it back to its original glory, or we want to take it and modify it in some way because we have some vision for it. It's who we are. It's not something you're going to change about yourself. And I admit for many years, I kind of walked away. Not totally walked away, but really wasn't that involved in the hobby because of where my life was at. And I had a lot of things going on, and we were dealing with a lot of issues and so forth. Anyway, it doesn't matter. All first world problems. But I didn't do as much work in the shop. And in the last several years, now that I've been really, really hot and heavy back into it, I feel like myself again. It's just who I am. And people don't understand that. Now, we can't expect other people to accept us for who we are. That's unrealistic. I was thinking about that a lot this morning in preparation for doing this episode. It's unfair of anybody to demand that somebody accept us for who we are. We have no control over what other people do. All we can do is control ourselves. And controlling how we view other people who don't understand is very important. People judge us for what they don't understand. And we need to be careful that we're not judging back. Try to look at things from their perspective. How do we deal with it? We do our very best to be considerate, but not pandering. We do our very best to be kind. Maybe sometimes the best thing we can do is just completely keep our distance and ignore it. But sometimes that's hard when the cops are on your doorstep multiple times a year because of some stupid infraction that, quite frankly, even the cops think is ridiculous, but they have no choice but to follow up on a complaint. That's the reality of life for some of us. I'm very fortunate and blessed that where I'm at now, I can have as many cars as I want within reason. Nobody complains, and it's all good. But it hasn't always been the case. So here's the challenge. Here's the assignment for you guys and gals. Drop your experiences down there in the comments of dealing with people who just don't get it, who just don't understand, who view what we do as nothing but a nuisance and an annoyance and an imposition on their lives. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you being here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. I intend this episode to be just a discussion starter to get some things going down there in the comments. How do you deal with neighbors who just don't get it? All right, we're on the Face thing. Instagram loves us, /MyCarsShop. And one more thing, don't forget, rock.